It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You know, there was that old saying, I think it was the Bible, love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Now, a few months ago on the show, I talked about, I haven't had necessarily any nightmare neighbors in the sense that it was problem after problem after problem after problem. But definitely we needed to have a moment where it was kind of like, you know what? Who's lived in this neighborhood longer, okay? And so you're not just going to come in here and, you know, have your cat walking through my yard and, you know, taking a swipe at my dog, my big dog that could probably kill it. I have two dogs. You know, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, you're not going to have... So, you know, sometimes it's maybe done in a passive-aggressive way, sometimes it's maybe even just done directly, right? And so I talked about how... So I've been in my house for 19 years, and on either side, the houses on either side have had, so the house on to the left has had three different occupants since I've lived in my house. And then the house to the right has had, the house to the right has had, there was a family, then there was the single guy, and then there's teen mom. Was there somebody after? No. So then the one on the right has had three occupants. And so the first family on the right, they had little kids. So when my dog was, we had a high, tall wooden fence between the houses. So my dog would be outside and they would run back and forth along the fence and kind of tease the dog. So that was the extent of, you know, they were little kids and whatever. But a nice... very respectful Filipino family. It's kind of funny how sometimes, you know, you can live beside somebody and not even know their name for a while. You have the pleasantries, right? You have the smile, you have the, you know, the hi or good morning or whatever. And so I didn't really know anything about them. There was a little boy and a little girl and then the parents. I'm assuming the parents. And otherwise, you know, not loud, not, you know, we'd see maybe the guy's out cutting the grass or something, you know, you'd see and, you know, say hi, and that was kind of about it. And then they moved, and then they sold the house, and it was just a single guy on his own. And then later, his mom came to live with him, and he again was kind of he'd lived there for years by himself, older guy, probably in his 40s, maybe 50s, and his mom came to live with him. He actually built a ramp. Because she had a walker, he built a ramp to the front of the house. Not like somebody installed it or whatever, this tiny little Filipino guy. And so it wasn't until that he had put his house up for sale. It was kind of funny. That was sort of our first real conversation, was he was in the front and he was doing whatever in the front yard. And we still didn't do that whole, hi, my name's Jeremy, and, you know, but it was kind of like you didn't kind of really need to, right? It was just like, oh, we're just neighbors, so we're pleasant to each other, and, you know, that was it. Now, the house on the left, though, you know, it's one of those situations where, you know, when you're living at home or whatever with your parents, and back then we had great relationships with our neighbors. We knew them as Mr. and Mrs. We didn't call them by their first name. But you think like, okay, when I get a house, I want neighbors like that, where we, you know, they'll have a barbecue and they'll invite us over, or it's their birthday and we'll do it, you know, we'll be invited to the party in the basement, or it's New Year's and they're doing something and so they come over and, they send you a Christmas card or whatever it is. So you hope for that when you get your house, right? So the house to the left, it was two women. I didn't know, are these sisters, are these, you know, roommates? I didn't know what the connection was. I just know that there were two blonde women. And so I didn't know anything about them until we'd lived beside each other for a couple years. And again, it was one of those situations where I happened to be walking through the backyard. You know, you see one of them or they're out in the driveway or whatever, and you say hi, and that's it. We don't know each other's names. We don't know anything about each other, but you have that smile, and it's kind of, you know, that's it. And so we didn't, I told the story. You'll have to look back at that episode. I don't remember the show number or anything like that, but it was about neighbors. And so we didn't really get to know each other until it was, so her roommate, the homeowner, she had a roommate, the friend, and the friend moved out, so it was just her. Well, then the homeowner, she's by herself. She's in a relationship with this guy. He proposes, and they get engaged, and she moves in with him. But we didn't have a relationship at all with each other for the first couple, years. Once we then kind of break the ice, and I know her name is Tara, she knows my name is Jeremy, I know the husband's name is this, I know, I know the dog's name is Harley. You start to get to know each other. Then all of a sudden, that's when she tells me that she's moving, and I was like, oh my god. So I'm now just kind of starting that. Hey, friend, who's my neighbor, and then all of a sudden she moves, and I was just like, ugh. And then that house was never the same when it comes to pleasant neighbors. So I'm not going to talk about, again, you'll have to go and listen to it because it's basically me just telling the same story over again. But so I want you to listen to that one if you haven't seen it, or after this show, go and listen to that one. But I've got an update about the troubled neighbors. And so I'm not talking about the Russian family with the cat that attacked the dog and then was on my roof, and the little girl and the hose and the... You'll need to listen to that episode. Come on, if that description alone isn't enough to make you tune in. So when we come back on the Scribble, I'm going to talk about something that happened last summer and then continued just recently on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on the Scribble. All right, so I mentioned there's been a rotating people over the past 19 years in the house on to the left of mine, and the first neighbor was great, pleasant. Wish she would still be living beside me, actually. And then after that was a Russian woman, and then I don't know where she went, but then it was her parents, I'm guessing, that moved in, and then you'd think that, an old couple, like elderly couple would be nice. They kind of felt like my property was theirs, and so they, used my driveway, and it was a little bit of a problem. I had a car towed out of my driveway one day, and it was delicious to be standing in the kitchen window to watch them come out and go, whoever it was, to come out and look and be like, what? Where's the? I thought we parked here. Where did it? Isn't it? Where did it? And it's like, bye car. So I kind of, but I didn't. I've never wanted to have a combative relationship like that, right? Like it's just kind of, it's not worth it. But the thing is like you're gonna disrespect my property. Like your cat is wandering through my yard. We don't have flowers or anything in my yard, but still, actually, that's not true. We do. But it's not like, oh, it's digging up my flowers or shitting in my yard or whatever. It's like, the point is that it's my property. I can't just go and have my dogs in your backyard, right? I mean, it's a respect thing. I guess it's a safety thing, at least too, for dogs. But I mean, again, a cat could attack a child. It could, I don't want dead birds left in my yard, and then my dogs are going to go and eat that or whatever it is and get some kind of a disease. Like, your pets should not be in my yard, period. I don't care what the fuck your pet is. If it's a hamster, if it's a whatever, why is it in my yard? And then secondly, you might be having company over. By the way, they've got a double garage and room to park, in a driveway. But there were still people parked in my driveway. And I'm just kind of like, how is this? And you could make that argument of, well, you weren't using it, or, well, there was room in yours. No. Still my property, right? Doesn't matter if I use my driveway or not. My property. So am I being a Karen? Am I being a picky? Am I being a whatever? Well, here's the thing: is that the one time though, with that Russian family, I was being driven home. I was out with a friend, and I was being dropped off, and so I had actually. This was shortly after I had bought my house. So I said, "All right, we'll just park in the driveway, go." And there's a car parked there. How embarrassing is that when you're going to show your friend your new place, and then you show up, and your driveway, there's a car parked in the driveway, and your friend says, "Oh, there's no room." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not my car. I'm not sure." He's like, "Oh, is there somebody like doing work or something at your place?" I said, "There shouldn't be." So, again, that was kind of the point though of it's my driveway. You don't know if I'm going to be having company or something over. I mean, the bottom line is it's my driveway. So that was the day that I had the car towed, because again, like my guest can't get into my driveway because there's a car that's not supposed to be. I don't know where this car came from. I don't know what, So fast forward to present day, or I guess last summer, there was a situation where I was at home. And you have to remember, we've got a house in Canada and then a house in West Hollywood. So I was in Canada, I'm talking about. And so I was doing something in the house. I don't remember what I was doing, but then I happened to go. Was I in the kitchen or was I in the office? Either way, I looked out a back window, and there was a car parked in my driveway. And I just kind of thought, it doesn't look familiar. I know what my car looks like. I know what my husband's car looks like. And neither of those was our car. So I go outside, and I'm looking, and I was like, it's kind of like a, sort of a dumpy car from the maybe the 80s or 90s. I'm not a car person, I don't know. But it was an older car, like 80s or 90s, kind of a rundown. And so I'm looking, I'm going, was it abandoned here? Like, I don't really know, but where did this come from? I'm just... So I go and I look, and I'm kind of looking around, and there was a lot of fast food bags and garbage. Let's just say garbage in the back seat, and then on the passenger seat, and so then I'm kind of looking at it, going, okay, this is a young person's car, I think. And so I go and I look, and I look into the front, and there's a sticker or something on the dash, or sorry, it was on the back window, that said, "I heart people who do drugs." And so I kind of thought, okay. I mean, the fact that that's kind of the only... Normally when people have things like that, they'll have a couple stickers. They might have a few things, but the fact that it's just that, that was a little bit sort of alarming to me, just because I thought, is this a drug deal? Like, is somebody, delivering drugs and then parking in my... And the reason why I think this, let me give you, there's a backstory to that. So probably about, I was doing the free press thing. So it would have been about 12 or 13 years ago. There was a house across the way that had teenagers. I don't know who lived there. I don't know if it was the family, if this was... I don't know how many kids lived there, but there were constantly teenagers there. And so I was working from home at the time, and I would see just a constant flow of teenagers coming in, going into the garage for a couple minutes and then leaving. So again, you kind of just notice these things. At first, it doesn't really click, and then you're kind of like, I do see that a lot. And then there was one afternoon where I just happened to be looking outside, and there was a group of teenagers. Now, of course, you got, there's kids on their bikes and whatever, and I was just like, oh boy, something's going down. Like, what? So I ended up getting my digital camera. This, again, it was a long time ago. Getting my digital camera, I thought, I'm just going to take a picture of the group, because in case something happens, right? Like, in case there's damage to my property, in case there's, maybe a stabbing or something, like whatever, at least I've got a picture, and I've got it, remember, this is a long time. It wasn't like taking the camera and like filming and going, oh, there's going to be a fight. No, it was just like one quick shot, we got a group shot, and then if something goes down. So I'm like, oh God, there's going to be a rumble. Like, is it going to stumble onto my property, or like, what the hell? Fast forward a few months, and I was doing a column for the Winnipeg Free Press related to my best-selling book. So what I would do was I would go down to the newspaper. They made a little studio for us to shoot this video segment. And so we would do that once a month. So I would go, I think it was like the first Wednesday or Thursday of the month, and we would shoot the 4 episodes or 5, however the month fell. We'd shoot them all in one morning, and then that's it. I didn't have to go again. So I'm up, and there's a police car in my driveway parked along the long ways, not parked the correct way, but blocking my driveway. And again, I mean, I'm not gonna go and have that towed or something. But to me, that was my signal of, I guess I can't use my driveway. I mean, here I could go outside and go like, excuse me, I kind of need my driveway. Like I kind of need to get out. So I go and I message our video producer, the guy that I was doing these segments with. He was our technical guy. And I said, it might be a little late. I see that there's a police car out back, and then there's police tape actually kind of around the house. And he wrote back and he said, was that the shooting? And I said, I was like, what? So here, funny enough, a guy from the newspaper, right, is messaging me. And so I go and I type in winnipegfreepress.com, and sure as shit, there's a picture of the house from across the way that there's 2 bullet holes in the front window. And I said, coincidentally, I said, in that picture, you see that house in the back there? my house was in the newspaper. So at least he knew about it, and I had an excuse for being late. I mean, it was very casual. I was, I would show up there at whatever time, and I would drink wine the whole time we were there anyway. So it was it's not like he's going to be going, where is he? But the fact, how funny is it that all of a sudden it's on the front page of the newspaper's website? I mean, so I didn't really know. I was just like, oh, there's a police car behind. And then when I finally did look, yes, there was police tape. I could see it. But I mean, I wasn't looking that far, like a block over or whatever. So yes, 2 bullet holes in the front. So then I was kind of like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on. So I was a little bit on edge there, alert. And then there were times where somebody would park in my driveway and there would be an empty jug of like chocolate milk that was kind of left there. And I thought, here's the thing. It was kind of okay if they were just sort of, like waiting for their friend or whatever. Now you're littering. Now you're leaving garbage on my property. And nope, we're now, now that's the line. We're done now. We're nope, putting an end to it. Not your property. Stay off it. Like I said, kind of cool with it or whatever. You're fine. I'm not the cool guy anymore. Littering, not cool. Garbage on my property, no. Because it's one thing that it's a courtesy that I'm allowing you to, or, whatever. And then that's how you're going to repay me. That's how you're going to, is by leaving garbage now on the property. Like, that's where I was just kind of like, no, that doesn't fly with me. So then, a couple years later, I guess, kids had grown up or whatever, I actually got a note in my mailbox asking, it's just the neighbor from across the way. I moved to Saskatchewan, but I'm back for the winter. Is it cool? Like we don't have room for my car because I'm back in town. Is it cool, if I can, use your driveway for the winter or whatever, and I'll pay you, and I'll shovel and whatever for the winter, and so I kind of said, yeah, whatever, like it's sure. There's space, then go for it. This is before my husband was around. So I was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Not a big deal. And he was paying me, I think it was like $50 a month or something. And I'm like, even still, right? I'm getting the snow shoveled. And there you go. So it was fine. Okay. So that's where, for some reason, my driveway has always kind of been open territory for people in the neighborhood. I don't know why. All right. So now fast forward. So now the house to the left, the Russians are gone. It's now a family. There was, when they first moved in, there was a little girl. She was, I'm not good with kids' ages, so I would say that she was maybe 10 or 11 or something, because now she's, well, no, maybe she's a little bit older, because she's probably 20 or something now. But again, I don't know their names. I don't even know how many kids, quite honestly. There was a man and a woman before. I've really only seen the man lately. The daughter, I'm assuming it's the daughter. You just assume those things. I don't know if they have 2 kids. I know that they have a dog. The dog's name is Mackenzie, which is a kind of don't know. I just because I know the dog's name, I've heard them say Mackenzie before. They don't know my name. They don't know, my dog's names. They don't know I don't think they know my husband's name. He's never had a conversation with them. But again, we've kind of had I've just had a couple words with the guy about, the weather or what, just general chit chat. It's never even been in depth enough to, oh, hey, by the way, my name is Jeremy. It's always just been something very comment about the weather, or comment about like the traffic, or the how they cleared the snow or something, how the city did something with the snow clearing or whatever, but we don't know each other's names. So they've kept to themselves. We keep to ourselves. Our dogs don't bark. Theirs kind of does every once in a while, but again, not really an issue. And that's about it. They don't really take care of their backyard, so that's sort of one issue where you're sort of like, but we only see it because our upstairs looks into their backyard, so we see it. But otherwise, if you're going down the street or whatever, you wouldn't even see into their backyard. So no biggie. But anyway, okay. So last summer, like I said, I'm at the back of the house, and I look and there's somebody, there's a car parked in my driveway, and I was like, okay. So I look, and they see, I heart people who do drugs, and I thought, oh, is it this? Because those kids are too old from across the way. That can't be them again, because they're probably in their mid-20s, if not older than that already. So it was there for quite a while, and so back when I had that first car towed I was talking about, there was actually a phone book. I remember that's, I went and found a towing company in the phone book, and I took my cordless phone outside and I called from out there. So last summer, I was just like, I don't know. This is a random kind of an afternoon. I mean, it's kind of quiet around. Like I don't know who this is, right? I mean, I'm thinking that the girl next door, like, she would be in school or something. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the teenagers across the way, again, the 20-somethings across the way still live there. And again, too, as I've said, my time is split between Winnipeg and West Hollywood. So the fact that I'm not always home maybe also kind of is like, hey, there's usually a lot of time where we can use this. This driveway is empty a lot of time. Maybe people are using it more than I know, right? Because if I'm gone for weeks at a time, but generally we would either have vehicles and I mean we have cameras and everything. Anyway, so this car's out there, and I was just like, all right, well, I don't know. So I randomly Googled a towing company, and I called them and I said, I don't know whose car this is. I mean, the last time I was able to just call them and say, don't know who it is, it's my property, get it out of here. And I just had to sign a paper saying I'm authorizing this or this is my property and whatever, and they came and took it away. The guy asked me if I want to go and ask the neighbors, and I said, no, I don't know it. It's not my car. Take it away. Go. So this time I Google a towing company, and I call them, and they say, have you reported it to police? And I said, no. And they said, well, you need to do that first, and then once they put in a report or whatever, because I said I don't know if it's stolen. I don't know. I have no idea where this car is from. And I said it's got a thing about drugs, so like that's the last thing that I want associated with my property. Sorry. And they said you would need to call police, non-emergency, not 911, but call police, and you put in a report or whatever, and then they would let once you do that and they give you either like a reference or whatever number, then the towing company can come and take it away. So I said, all right, no problem. So now, because we got to take a break, that story ran a little long. I'm gonna talk about what happened when I called the cops right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
JB here on the Scribble, or should I introduce myself as Karen? Am I a Karen? Is that the vibe you're getting from this story, from these stories today? Well, I called the cops because there was a car left in my driveway. Now, not that I've called 911 or called the police a lot of times, but because I called the non-emergency, I said kind of right off the bat, I was told to call by a towing company, but I'm not sure of the process. So I don't want to. If I'm mistaken, then, I apologize or, whatever. But I said, there's a car that's left in my driveway. It's not familiar to me. I've never seen it before. I said, it's kind of dumpy with, garbage all in it. There's something that says, I heart people who do drugs. So I'm unsure if, is this a car that's abandoned? Is somebody somewhere doing a drug deal? Is somebody going to come by and shoot it up and think it's mine or whatever? And again, I'm not overreacting. I'm not having a panic attack, but I'm just saying it's not my car, but it's my property. And so the woman said, okay, so you don't know it. I said, I don't. So she had me read the, not the license plate. There's that number on your front, dash, what is that called? VIN number? Is that what you said? So there's like an identifying number, right? Because the license plate obviously could just be stuck on it, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the car. And so as I'm talking to her, as I'm on the phone and I'm describing, well, it's a dark blue car. And I said, I'm not a car person, but okay. So it says this was whatever the model is. And so as I go around to the front of the car and I'm looking and I found that number, I'm reading it. And then all of a sudden, the girl, teenager or 20s, the girl from next door is coming out with a friend or with somebody. And I say into the phone, I say, oh, hold on. You know what? I think they're coming. Just hold on 2 seconds. And so as I'm still on the phone, I said, is this your car? And then on the phone, I can hear her say, well, if they stole it, they're not going to say no. But here I am trying to be, the journalist or whatever, going. And so I said, yeah, we're just going now. And I said, I'm on the phone with the cops. I don't know whose car this is. Didn't get my permission. I don't know if it's stolen. I don't know what's going on here. Like, why are you parking in my, spot? Oh, sorry, it won't happen again. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so the woman on the phone at the police, she's like, so are they moving it? Is it like they have the keys and everything? And I said, yeah. And I was so tempted to go and say, hold on, you two. Can I get your IDs, please? I thought about this after the fact, right? I should have said, well, I'm going to card them and I'll stay on the phone. I'll be like, okay, well, this is, it's Sally, Smith. Is that who you have, police? Because I said, like, I'm on the phone with the police right now. Like, I'm reporting this as, stolen property or trespassing or whatever. Like, I don't know. So there was apologies. And then, oh, sorry, and then the explanation was that the street was full. Or sorry, the lane, the alley, whatever, was full. And that's when I said, we have a whole front street. But still, for some reason, it's like, I'm going to pick you up in the back. And it's like, that's also shady. People don't get picked up, in the back, in the lane, in the alley. I mean, come on. So that happened. It was in the summer of last summer. And I was just so... Now, I was also dealing with something else in the morning. I don't remember what it was. I think I was fighting with the bank, or I had something that was just getting me worked up. And so I ended up calling Suzanne, our producer. I'm firing off these texts because I was working from home that day. And, when I'm pounding you with text messages, back to back to back to back to back, the best thing you can do is call me and go, something's up. And so Suzanne, like the good employee and friend, she knew about this thing, with the bank that I was dealing with, and there was something else too. I think, there was a fight with the post office or something too. And then this happened in the afternoon, and I was just, at that point, when you get to, you're just like, that's the last thing today. This is the one that sends me over the edge. Well, that was the one that sent me over the edge. So I tell her the story, whatever, and she's like, no, you didn't really overreact, but, she's probably not going to do it again, right? Because you told her, don't, and she said, I won't, and she said, and you also had the cops on the line, so, And I said it wasn't a big, I didn't name call, I didn't swear, I didn't, And the great thing was because I had the police on the phone, the whole thing was recorded. So, you'll hear that I wasn't going to, I had to maintain a level of professionalism when I'm, speaking to police as well. So, yeah, the whole thing was fucking recorded. But so Suzanne just said, like, no, you'll be fine, whatever, it's not, you've told her, they know, and, that's it. So, the other night, it's probably close to, it was a little bit after 11:30. I should check. When we do the shows, I don't have my phone with me. So I texted Suzanne, though. So yeah, it was about between 11:30 and midnight, probably. And I was, I'm walking, so the back of the house, there's no lights on or anything like that because we weren't in the back of the house. We were elsewhere. But I just happened to go through and I see there's headlights that are pointing at the house. And so, again, just knowing what happened a year, was it not quite maybe a year, I guess. Knowing that had happened, and you'd think, ooh, my neighbor called the cops on me, and I'm embarrassed or I'm whatever, but, I think about how kids are these days, right? I think about something like that. It's a decent neighborhood. Like we're not in a dumpy, our house is not in a bad area except for the shooting, but honestly, that surprised me just because of the neighborhood that we're in. Like, honestly, I again, kids kind of get into, some trouble or whatever, but yeah, it's otherwise it's not a bad neighborhood. So I see these headlights and there was just something in me that went storming outside. So again, here I am. It's pitch black outside. There's just headlights. I can't see into the car. I'm just like, what? It's just because it took me back to that day, right? And the stress of that entire day. So the rage is, times 10 because of all the stuff that happened that day. So I go outside. And we have a tall wooden fence, but I'm tall enough that my head can, I can, if I go on my toes or whatever, I can look over. And I'm just standing there. So basically, the headlights are right on me, essentially. I'm in my yard. And I'm standing there. And all of a sudden, the girl from next door comes out and she says, "Oh, sorry. And I said, "We went through this before." I know, I'm sorry. I said, "This is my property." No. I said, "Sorry, it won't happen again." I said, "Why did it happen again?" I said, "Sorry." I said, "Answer my question." "Sorry, okay?" And then she goes out of their yard and then comes into my driveway and, gets in. And I said, as she's getting, and by the way, I've got to say, not to editorialize, but to editorialize, she was kind of dressed hoey. And so that's where I was just like, first of all, you're leaving, and it was a weekday. It was Tuesday night. So it's like you're leaving, you're going out at midnight on a Tuesday, dressed kind of hoey. And I don't know, again, I can't see. Maybe it's the, I don't want to use the word lesbian, but I'm just going to say it was a very butchy female that that owns the car. so she could probably kick my ass. And my husband, who knows Brazilian martial arts. But so as she was getting to the car, and I just said, gonna be lots of tire damage driving over the nails next time. And so she got into the car and then left. And again, so they, leave my driveway. But I come inside, and like I said, it's midnight, and I'm just raging. Again, it's not me being the Karen. It's the whole thing of, it's my property, respect it, and we had this conversation, and that you apologized, and that you said it wouldn't happen again, and it is, and that's the thing, right? It's the common courtesy of it. Here's the thing. Let me be honest, and just like I said about the neighbor who wanted to use the driveway in the winter because he was back in town, ask me. Oh, hey, is it okay? Fine. And actually, he did it for 2 winters because he came back for 2 winters. It's not that I'm an unreasonable person. I'm not that person who's, putting signs up, keep off the grass and whatever. Not at all. Not at all. Like I said, who wants to live in a neighborhood like that? You want to be, civil with your neighbors. You want to have, that's the last thing you want is all of a sudden, be on one of those A&E shows, Neighborhood Wars. So it's midnight, and I come, and I'm raging. I'm just so, seriously. I grabbed my phone, I texted Suzanne, and my hands were shaking. And I realized that, yes, maybe it is something petty, or it's something, so trivial, and just like, well, why I get so worked up about it. And I don't normally get worked up about things. But again, like I said, that night, it was just in that moment. So my hands are shaking as I'm texting her, and I'm basically like telling the entire story in, one super long text. And then I go into my office, and I grab some printer paper, and I take a Sharpie, and I write on the piece of paper something to the effect of, I don't remember the exact words, but why is your kid still trespassing after cops were called the first time? And then something like, it would be great if she were taught to respect the community and not think that somebody else's property is hers to use, or something like that. I was tempted to take a snotty kind of remark like, maybe, should be like better parents or something. But I thought, instead of I said, it would be great if she were taught, in a roundabout way of saying parents should teach their kids that. But I was going to take an actual dig at, some kind of parents, raised her. But I just kind of thought, I don't want to go that far. And then again, I was tempted to go and say, and maybe she should dress a little more respectably at night when she's being picked up in an alley at midnight. But I thought that might sour the relationship even more. So it's one of those situations where, so I wrote 2 of them, because this is also the really weird thing. They have a double car garage, and I don't think that they use it. And they have 2 cars parked behind it. So I'm guessing those are cars each of the parents, or some, I don't know whose it is, but there's 2 vehicles, 2 SUVs actually. So that's why, my driveway is the default because, and again, same kind of thing. Oh, by the way, that was something that she said again the second time was, well, there's no room back there. I said, we have a whole fucking front street. Really? We have the whole front street. But then again, so for me to get mad at you and then you're giving me attitude. Have you noticed that? It's when people get busted doing something, or they're the ones doing something illegal, or they're the one, we have that with when I walk the dogs and people are blocking the public sidewalk because the driveway or whatever is. And I can't tell you how many times I've pointed that out to people, and not even in a dick way, but just go and say like, it's illegal to block the sidewalk. Thank you. And I'll just keep walking. Like, I'm sworn at, I'm told off, and I just kind of thought, but you're the one breaking the law, right? Like, I'm just pointing out that, hey, by the way, it's illegal to block the sidewalk. And then you go and tell me, but you're the one doing something bad, not me. And so I go and I leave that note, or the 2 notes on both windshields. I wrote the same thing on both pieces of paper. And I left them there at midnight. So then I go and do that. And it's not that I was then second guessing it. It's not like I was kind of like, oh shit, did I just start something? Because it needs to be addressed, right? I mean, it needs to be, I don't want some rundown, dumpy car that says "I heart people who do drugs," with garbage and everything in it. I don't know you from a hole in the ground. I don't know your names, so I just, again, right? I mean, that's so. I come inside, and my husband's just like, "Oh my God, you know what? Just leave it, whatever." And I said, "Whatever." I mean, I put it there, put them there, put the notes there, and it's not like they have my number or something they're going to call me. And so I'm thinking about that, going, is the guy a reasonable guy where he's going to go to the kid and say, "What are you doing? What is this about?" Is there going to be a knock on my door the next day with a raging parent telling me off, confronting me? So the good thing is that I don't know what's happened. Like, I don't know if they've come, like to the door or something. I don't know of that. So, and as I said, it was just a couple days ago, so I don't really know. But you wonder, right? Is all of a sudden this going to be one of those protective dads that, how dare you say about my kid and whatever? Excuse me, but at the end of the day, the facts are the facts, and your kid is trespassing, and the kid, and we do have a record of this phone call, with the cops. That I didn't file a police report. I'm just saying that there was a recording of it. So the fact that she knows that I was on the phone with the cops before, I mean, I could easily then go and try to find the date and say, hey, look, pull this call from this day and this time, and you can hear it. So, but yeah, I my husband's like, it's not a big deal, whatever. And I said, no, but it is, because it's respecting your neighbor. It's, hey, you were told don't do this anymore. You said you won't, and now you are. So that's what it is. If like, oh, is it okay if next time, would it be okay maybe if there's here's the thing, because again, what if I want to have company over? What if I'm having, and there was actually one time where we were having groceries delivered and the driveway was full because they couldn't, they couldn't get into the driveway, even though the instructions say come to the driveway. So again, it's my property. Why do I need to clear it with somebody else and go, oh, is there going to be room in my driveway for my groceries to be delivered? I shouldn't have to do that. Whether it's midnight or, whatever time. I could be having a pizza delivered at midnight. Again, shady if you're having pizza delivered from an alley at midnight, but still. I'm not making a big issue about it and storming over there the next day and hammering on the door and just put the note on the windshields and there you go. And maybe it'll be an unsaid thing and they're aware of it. They'll say something to her and that's it. It doesn't need to be an issue. It's not, that's what you'd hope. But again, I haven't come face to face with them. I haven't seen any of them, so we'll see. What would you do if you're in that situation? Like I said, it's your driveway, but you never, maybe I could be having company coming over. How do I know that, I'm going to have to go and now check when I've got deliveries coming or company coming and going, oh, okay, there's room in my driveway. There's no unauthorized parking happening. Yes, the first time, they were in the house for however long. I don't know how long their car was parked there. But again, are you making an afternoon of this? Because no. And then, the other time, the other night, it was just, she was being picked up. I only happened to notice it. I don't know how long the car was waiting there. But I mean, she came out a few moments later. So it was probably just a quick, few seconds. But again, it could be in that 2-minute stretch that my husband's coming home from work or something. Bottom line, not your property. Stay the fuck off. Would you say something? Would you do would you all of a sudden put up like barricades or something now? Like, what would you do? That's, I think, a little bit too much, right? That's kind of but I put the note, make it aware. If it happens again, whatever. And in the note, like I said, I mentioned that, the cops were called the first time. So if that was me, if I'm looking at that going, wait a second, the neighbor called the cops on my kid, that might piss me off as the parent, but I'm going to go and say, whoa, the cops were called? Why didn't you tell us about that, kid? What did you do? And now, again, she could describe it as being like, well, it was just a couple minutes. I don't know. They don't use the driveway there and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, maybe it would be seeming like something petty. And fine, come and ask me about it. Be a grown-up, have a discussion. I'll go and say, here's the thing, though. How do you know that I didn't need the driveway at that moment? In that few moments? Right? I mean, look at the time that I was having my friend drop me off. We were going to take a 5-minute tour of my place. And there's a car in my driveway. Like, Now I've got to go around and park on the front street or, whatever it is. It's like, why is that? Why do I have to do that now? So yeah, should I rope off the property? Should I put one of those little like orange cones or something around the driveway? Like, do I block it off? I mean, again, that's the dick move. But you think, okay, we've had this conversation now a second. Now I've escalated it to the parents. Maybe it'll stop again. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's happened a lot more that I just don't know about. But you would think we've had this discussion. Police were called. You said you're not going to do it anymore. How many more times has it happened since then? Well, I busted you. And it's even worse when it's midnight and there's just random car lights shining into your house. So it's funny because when I told the story, Suzanne, we ended up having a phone call the next day. And I've said this before about how one of the things that I have, Canadians, we don't have guns in our houses. But I said one of the things that I was going to do was I was going to, back in the day, was get a red laser pointer pen. And if you do, you see somebody in your backyard or whatever, I would stand in the kitchen window and then just point the laser pen outside, at them. They're going to think it's a scope or, like a laser from a gun or something. And so I thought about that. Could you imagine just you're parked in somebody's driveway and then all of a sudden there's a red laser coming through your windshield? I'd be driving the fuck out of there real quick. And so I said, maybe I will do that then. I'll just keep it on the windowsill, and then you just happen to notice that somebody's, in your drive. We don't have. See, the thing is that because it is a nice neighborhood, so security, we have a house alarm, and we did have we've had cameras, but then it was kind of like I just don't want to feel like I need to have that in my neighborhood. Like you just kind of feel, yes, it's a security thing, yes, and so if when we're out of town, right? Because we leave for 3 weeks, even maybe like a month or two at a time when we're in West Hollywood, from our business stuff. So yeah, our house could be empty for, 3 months. So in that time, yes, the cameras are on or whatever. But at the same time, it's mostly watching the house, right? Like it's not necessarily in the back, which is not, why would, we just don't have something like pointed right there. It's more so capturing in the yard. So not to give away our security secrets, but the cameras are not necessarily on the house because you would see that when you're coming into the backyard, right? So they're actually they're lowered. We'll catch you coming into the yard. We will see everything when you come into the yard. We're not seeing though into the driveway, because that would just be setting off, the cameras and whatever all the time, right? Because people are going down the lane or whatever it is. So, I don't want that going off all the time. So when you enter into the yard, boom, now you're rolling, and that's when things go. So anyway, not to tell you the secrets of how you can rob our house when we're gone for 3 months at a time. We're going to have to do that thing like on Home Alone where the kid things are going around the train track and it looks like there's a party going on. We're going to have to start doing that at our house. But anyway, so what would you do? It's your driveway. Again, it's not such a huge deal, but there have been instances where it's in that few moments where somebody's parked there and then you need it and you're like, really? The one time that would you say something? Would you do something? Would you have them towed? Would you put nails in the driveway then and go, you know what? You're responsible for your property damage if you're coming on to, why are you in my driveway then? If you wouldn't be trespassing on my property, you wouldn't have nails in your tires. So there you go. Hope you have insurance on your little dumpy drug mobile. Send me an email, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. We're out of time because once again, I have blown through our time limit. Wouldn't you know it? We're in Super Scribble territory. The 1 hour mark. Oh boy, that's happening more and more often lately. It really is. I should learn to shut up or just make my stories quicker. Anyhow, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you had a nightmare neighbor story? Send me an email, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. And now they just said hard out. And if you don't know broadcasting terminology, you're probably like, hard out? What do they do in that office? It means out. We're wrap now. No commercial break, no soft out. It's a hard out. I gotta go. We're done. We're out. This is The Scribble. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com. Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.